Hey, I'm Chey, and as usual, I'm ready to escape reality. Ready? Rolling. How you doing? You miss me? I know, it's been a little bit. It's been a little while since I've been around on my own channel, but I'm here now, and it's your problem. I know it's been a little bit. I know I haven't been uploading as uploading? No, I said it correctly. I haven't been. In true Chey fashion, we are back to butchering my words. As per usual. Ah, yes, I fall back right into my natural pattern of being. Haven't made videos in a while? Still gonna mess up your words. So, Chey, I hear you asking, what is this video about? What's going on? Where am I? Who are you? Where did you come from? Questions that my parents still ask me to this day. Well, I'll gladly tell you. I'm just ready to escape reality right now. I want to buzz out of the real world. And I'm gonna do that by reading. Reading for 24 hours. That's right, this video is gonna be another reading for 24 hours challenge. I did not punch on the correct beats that I wanted to punch on. We're doing another 24-hour reading challenge. I already did one of these before, and I love these kind of videos. I loved making that previous video that I did.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
For a long time, I was kind of off-put by making a reading for 24 hours challenge because I have done 24-hour challenges before, and it just wreaked havoc on my body. I hate doing it. I need my sleep. And I like my schedules. I like my routines. Props to the people that can actually do it. And I know you're saying, Chey, there are people who sleep during their challenges. They don't just stay up for 24 hours. It's more so that they're focused on reading more than anything else for those 24 hours. But they can sleep and eat and, you know, do what they need to do. Listen. No. It's either all or nothing, baby, or I gotta find a different stratagem, a different system. And so that's what I did. One of my favorite booktubers and one of my favorite YouTubers in general, Allison Pages, does her 24-hour challenges a little bit differently. The way she structures them is reading for 24 hours total rather than 24 hours consecutively. So what she does is every time she reads, she times herself until it totals up to 24 hours total. So she could be reading for 3 hours one day and the next day only read 30 minutes. I tried this strategy the first time I made this video, and it absolutely blew me away with how well it worked. I think I ended up reading over 3,000 pages. I flew through so many books, I absolutely flew through the time. It felt kind of like a slog at first, I remember, but then the hours just started flying by the more and more books that I finished. And like I said, lately I've been wanting to read more than ever. I have a lot of books on my TBR that have just been sitting there, books that have been irritating me that I need to finish, and this is a good way to make sure that I sit down and read them, and have fun. But the TBR for this challenge is not necessarily strict. First and foremost though, I do want to try and finish all the books that I am currently reading. That way I can get them done and out of the way. Finished. Completo. I almost said finito. I guess finito would have been correct too. But after all those books, it's pretty much fair game. I'm just gonna mood read for the rest of the time. As for the books that I am currently on and hope to finish first in this challenge, Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut. I am actually very, very close to finishing this. I think I only have like 60 more pages. It's a really quick read. It's only 215 total this edition, I think, and I'm on like 160. I would say under normal circumstances, I could finish this probably in an hour or less. Definitely finish it in less than an hour. But I am annotating it as I read it, so it might take me a little bit longer. Usually when I'm doing a reading challenge, I don't like to use books that I am currently annotating because I feel like I try to rush myself through the book rather than taking the time, enjoying it, and annotating it the way that I would want to. That being said though, Slaughterhouse-Five is going to be an exception just because I am so close to finishing it and I'm just absolutely flying through it. I think it'll be very easy to finish up even with annotating. An exception to the rule. And I know earlier I said a point of this challenge was to escape reality, but I am going to be including reality books in this challenge. Reality books, yes, Chey, that's what we're calling nonfiction books now. I mean, it works, right? Rip It Up and Start Again. Post-punk from 1978 to 1984 by Simon Reynolds. This is a book that I have been working on for about 2 months now. Actually, this book and the next book, they're both part of a music book challenge that I made for myself to be doing during the months of May, June, and July, but it is not going to be done by the end of this month, so I have decided to unrestrict myself months-wise from the challenge, and you know what? It's just gonna get done when it gets done. But Rip It Up and Start Again. I've been trying to read it for 2 months. I've made pretty decent headway in it, I think. I have just been struggling with this book a little bit because of the writing style, because of the language. The way Simon Reynolds describes music, I just don't vibe with it. It confuses me. The facts and the stories and the people and the albums are great, but when he goes into describing the sounds of things, like the sounds of songs, I'm like, what are you talking about? So it's kind of frustrating. I have to take a lot more time than I would like, just shoveling through it, trying to be like, what is he talking about? But it's a shoveling effort that I think is worth it because I am learning a lot. I'm also not taking it that seriously to have to shovel through it because music is such a subjective experience that just because I don't understand what he's trying to get across and what it sounds like to him, it doesn't matter, really, because it matters what it sounds like to me, right? I'm more so cared that he gets the facts right, that I can understand what he's trying to get across in the facts, that I can understand those. And I think that he does that very well. That's why I'm sticking with this book. I am learning a lot. Please Kill Me, The Uncensored Oral History of Punk. Pretty self-explanatory. It's a collection of interviews of people involved in the punk scene, in the punk world, with punk's origins. All the intricacies of that world and its evolution. It's pretty interesting. It's also kind of really petty. The last book I'm currently on is Volume 1 of Given. Yes, I've finally started the series. It's taken me a lot longer than I thought it would to finally get to this series. I mean, a manga surrounding a band, surrounding music, it has me written all over it. I'm only 2 chapters in, but I am really enjoying it so far. And good for me, I already own the first 4 volumes of this series. So when I finish this, if I feel like it, I can just read the other 3 volumes that I have. Those are all of my current reads that I'm hoping to finish in this video. Like I said, the rest of the TBR is just going to be free games, going to be open season. Total mood reading going on. A mood reading madhouse, if you will. Chey, never do that. Don't do that accent again. I probably will. I definitely will. One more little disclaimer before we get into the challenge. As I finish these books, I will be giving a short little review, a short little summary of my thoughts. However, they will only be a mere paraphrasing, probably, of my total thoughts on the thing that I just read. If you would like to see my fully informed, fledged, unhinged opinions, look forward to my monthly book wrap-up video whenever that comes out.
So that was a lie.
But don't worry, I won't leave you hanging. I'll give you a little bit of my my thonky thews about my reviews on these books. That's enough out of me. Let's get started. Full disclosure, we are not off to a great start. I was supposed to start reading 2 hours ago. What have I been doing, you ask, instead of, reading like I was supposed to be doing? I've been doing this. Well, actually, not this. I've been doing that. Just on the floor. It's been floor time, but I am not just lying here on the floor doing nothing. I had my favorite band blasting in the background, and I'm sure I'll put video up of that somewhere, but I also don't want to get copyright struck by them a second time, so I only put in a very short clip. But I have just been lying here on the floor, listening to my favorite band for the past 2 hours on my TV. We're not off to a great start, what can I say? But I'm gonna get up, floor time is important to ADHD, so I didn't want to neglect that, but I think now it's time to get up, and now it's time to start getting some reading done, I hope. Hello, I have once again changed back into my long sleeve shirt because I came back in the house and the AC is on, so I was a little bit cold. And also, I was planning to start reading one of these books, but I forgot that I have an audiobook that I'm kind of in the middle of right now, which I think is due back in like 3 days to my library. And I have been addicted to this little parking game thing that I've been playing on my iPad, where I also have my Libby app. So I think what I'm going to do is utilize my time wisely, because obviously my brain is wanting to be a little gremlin brain, and I think I'm going to listen to my audiobook while I play this game for a little while. That way, you know, I get some reading done, it counts for the time, and I get to satisfy the little brain gremlins.
But you always think about these things too late. My blood test came back as low in magnesium and selenium, but instead of prescribing a vitamin, my doctor prescribed 2 Brazil nuts a day. I always thought that in the future, food was supposed to be in pill form, but now I'm taking pills in food form. We're going backward here. Also, it sort of sucks that the one nut I'm prescribed is the worst nut, the one everyone throws away. I out on there for my players. If you put a bunch of chameleons on top of a bunch of chameleons on top of a bowl of Skittles, what would happen? Is that science? Because if so, I don't really get why people want to do science.
What was that?
He's back.
Man your stations! Red alert! Red alert!
He's around here somewhere. There he goes!
Sunshine, I will finally show. I might die if I stay in this cold. And I finally admit it, I gotta be committed to let this story unfold. Oh, Corey. Oh, Corey. That's the summary of this book so far. Oh, Corey. Also could be taken a different way considering this chapter.
The crows are here.
I think that's Zach, Connor, and Dee. Oh, wait, no. I think Zach just joined them. I don't know where the 5th guy is. There's only 4 of them right now, so I can't tell which of the 4 they are. Oh, wait, no, there's the 5th one. Okay, so Zach was over there. Zach was in a different tree. That solves it. I got excited because there's a little bit of sunshine poking through. Nice! Nice! Alright, so this is where we're at, and I'm about 100 or so pages away from finishing this book. Definitely gonna finish it tomorrow, but we are 13 hours in, halfway through the challenge. Tell me why it's this dark at 5:40. 5:40. You can't see it, there we go. 5:40, why is it this dark? Why is it like 8 o'clock? My seasonal issues are having a field day because I'm like, oh, it's almost bedtime. But in my head, logically, I'm sitting here like, no, I have stuff to film. I have stuff to do. I have time to do it too because it's relatively early. It's not even 6 o'clock. It's not even dinner time. But, you know, caveman brain go, nope, dark, sleepy time, honk shoe, me time, you know? And frankly, I don't appreciate it. Surprise. Me again. We're back at it again. I know I kept saying I'm gonna come back with a wrap up and tell you about all those books and updates and stuff like that, and I have come to the conclusion that this video has it's reached its natural end. I ended up reading for 17 hours. I am going to call it quits, and I will tell you why. I will try and keep it succinct, as this video has definitely not been. Things did not go according to plan, quite obviously, but honestly, what in this video did? What in my life has gone according to plan recently? Not much. Not much. And that's kinda the reasoning behind why this video is ending the way that it is, but I'm okay with it. I think I'm making peace with it. I feel like I'm making peace with it as I'm saying it, as I'm drawing it to a conclusion, giving myself really kinda sticking myself into the decision to end it, because I'm still conflicted. Because it's like, I'm so close. I've read for 17 hours. I just did, 7 more. But the other part of me is like, Chey, we've been at this for months. Just end it. Just end it. God, just end it! So, I'm just ending it. Also, it's very gloomy, dreary afternoon outside, fall afternoon. I started this in when did I start this? In July? It's November! Oh boy! Oh boy. Yikes. So 17 hours. Not bad. Not bad. But why did I decide to end it at 17 hours? Well, I'll quickly explain that as I said 2 minutes ago. I originally conceptualized this challenge because I already did it once and I had a lot of fun. I got a lot of reading done and I did it fairly quickly within the span of a few days, within a week, I think it was, and it felt pretty simple to me. It gave me a big sense of accomplishment, but this time around, that clearly was not the case. No fault of my own, a lot of things, a lot of not great things happened, came into my life, disrupted a lot of my life in some very, very big ways, in ways that I couldn't have seen coming, and just kind of upended all of my current plans. Videos included, obviously, if you couldn't tell by the lack of videos recently. I usually post pretty regularly, I try to, but clearly stuff happened and is still the kind of aftermath of happening, and I'm just trying to now get back into a rhythm with things. This is one of those things that I was holding on to for a long time because I had already started it, and in my brain I'm like, okay, it's not that hard, we'll just finish it. Because I want to finish it, I still want to do it, I love reading, I'm back in a good reading mood. Fall weather is perfectly good reading mood, I can't get outside as much in the sun as I like to in the summer, but it's like perfect reading weather, because you stay inside, you get cozy, and I need a haircut, because that's becoming a problem. But I held on to this challenge because I was not halfway finished with it. I was about 7 hours into it, and I was like, okay, but it's a good video to come back to. I can finish it, I can do it, I can definitely do it. I'm enjoying all the books, I'm in a reading mood, but things just kept coming up. Things just kept interrupting. And honestly, this video started becoming more of a hindrance than it did of an excitement to me. A lot of the things that have happened recently have put me in an understandable slump, not just busy-wise as I explained, but just have been emotionally heavy, that kind of thing. And it affected my work, it affected my videos. Not just in me being able to put them out, but in me conceptualizing them to begin with. I just kind of fell into a creative rut of any kind. I was in a dopamine rut, I was in a happiness rut, I was depressed. That's what a happiness rut is. I was depressed. That's easy to say, Chey. Well, actually, it's not easy to say. It's Still working through a lot of those emotions, still working through a lot of that, but slowly over these past few weeks I have felt myself kind of creatively coming back to life, being inspired, being encouraged, just feeling ready to go, ready to make, ready to create. And a large part of that is in thanks to me just resting, which is a brand new concept for Chey this year, because I'm not good at it. Still not good at it, don't think I'll ever be good at it. I just watched a great video on why ADHDers can't relax by How to ADHD, which I'll link down below because, my goodness, she's doing the Lord's work. But I have allowed myself to recuperate, I guess, is probably the better term, with everything that's been going on. I've just tried to focus on allowing myself to exist, but also follow the dopamine. As in, don't think too hard, just follow whatever happiness comes in the moment, whatever's giving you joy, whatever's giving you happiness. Don't strain towards it, just let it come and go where it leads. So if I wanted to lay on the floor, I laid on the floor. If I wanted to listen to Concrete Jungle by Bad Omens 37 times in a row, that's what I did. Still in that process, but I'm feeling a lot better and I'm feeling better all the time. That being said, as I started coming back into feeling more like myself, I wanted to start making videos again. Also, that listening to Concrete Jungle 37 times in a row definitely wasn't me on the way down here this morning. The Concrete Jungle. Where was I? I started having all these new ideas that I was getting really, really excited about, and these ideas that had been on the back burner that I hadn't even started yet or I was in the middle of. Namely, this video right here. This 24-hour reading video was on me like a bad barnacle. And with my ADHD, I fully attribute this to my ADHD. I couldn't get started on anything else until I finished this. I feel like it is just a mental blockage that I'm in waiting mode because I don't want to get started on anything else. I don't want to get invested in anything else because I'm like, no. Emergency, siren. This video needs to be done first because it has been taking the longest. It should not be taking you this long. Just finish it, do it first, and then you can do the other ones. But there were reasons that I couldn't finish this video. I didn't feel like reading. I didn't have time to read. Also, the biggest thing that I finally just said F it with, I wasn't interested in the books that I had started for this challenge because I'm a mood reader. It's what I am. And I was like, well, I can't do the challenge if I'm not reading the books that I started for this challenge. Because I had books that I was reading, not for this challenge, I was just reading on my own, but I didn't want to have to figure out the pages that I was reading during this challenge versus the pages that I had already read or read outside of it. Too much math for my brain. I'm not a math brain, even though I was in advanced math all throughout high school and college. We're not going to talk about that. Brain no like numbers. Brain like funny noises. But because this video and finishing it just started weighing so heavily on me, I finally said, screw it. No, screw it. It is worth trying to track the pages and figure out all of that because I just want this to be done. I just want to finish it. I just want to be done. So I started doing that, and that was a few days ago. And I finally have a span of 2 weeks where I don't have work, which kind of sucks monetarily, but in the video sense, it's great because last month with everything going on, plus work was crazy, I didn't have a good set few days to actually start on the ideas that I wanted to do or finish anything. Now that I have this span of time that I can dedicate to working on this stuff, to actually getting things done and getting the ball rolling, and as I was trying to plan out my next few days of stuff that I wanted to work on, of content and scripts and research that I wanted to work on, this one just kept sounding the alarm in my head of, we're not going to get anything else done unless we get this one done first. And the reason this hurt even more was because this video takes so much time because I literally have to spend the time reading. So if I have 3 days down here with nothing to do, cool. But a majority of that time, a lot of that time besides, eating, preparing food, sleeping, showering, working out if I can, the time besides that, I have to spend reading. And at the time where I started working on this video again, there's a ladybug on my leg. Tennessee in the early fall, y'all. These bugs are confused. And because of when I restarted this video, I wasn't even at the 10-hour mark yet. I was at like the 7-hour mark, so I still had 17 hours to go. 17 hours over 3 days leaves me no other time, plus editing time. Editing and exporting and rendering, all that leaves no other time for any other content, just about, that I want to work on. That is, unless I divvy it up or do it all in one go like a madman and read for 17 hours straight, which I would not want to do. I would pass out, which is the whole premise for this challenge. The way I do it in the first place is, you know, just doing it whenever. But if I proportion it out, then I'm just running into the same problem, because I still feel I can't get started on anything else. I can't make the transition. I can't make the task initiation in my brain to do it, because I'm like, no, I need to get this done. I was coming up on the conclusion of one of the books I was reading, and I said, okay, whenever I finish this book is whenever we're gonna stop the challenge. I got down here today, read 120 pages. 4 hours. Took me about 4 hours. More like 3.5, but still, I just sat down and I didn't stop until I finished this book. And when I finished this book, it was almost at 16.5 hours, and so I said, okay, I'm gonna stop at 17 hours. I'm gonna pick up something else. There was another book that I had started during this challenge, and I said, I'm gonna read as far as I can in it for the next 30 minutes and end it evenly, cleanly at 17 hours. That way, I can film this wrap up. And I really debated on this for a long time. I even had to talk to my partner, because it's so close to 24 hours. Now that I only have 7 hours left, I'm like, yeah, I could do that in another day. I could do that, but realistically, do I want to? No, because I want to be working on other stuff that I'm more excited for. And also, I feel like this is just a good exercise in letting myself be done with something. Sometimes you're working on a project and you have this end in sight, you have this goal that you want to reach, but things happen, life happens, things change, things can't always, you know, be perfect, and you lose your momentum for them, you lose your drive for them. There are other things that gather your attention and your motivation more, but you don't want to abandon the original thing, and that's okay, you don't have to, but it's also okay to kind of Marie Kondo it and say, okay, this has had its time, but it's done with now. I'm grateful for the time I had here, but it's time to move on. It's time to let go. It's time to do other things. Doesn't mean you failed, just means you moved on. Am I still gonna say that I failed the 24-hour challenge? Yes. Technically. But in my heart and in my mind, no. Because I didn't fail in my mind, because the whole thing was to read more. It was to read and finish some books, and that's what I did, and I didn't fail. Did I fail the technical contingencies of what I set out for myself? Sure. Sure. But I succeeded at the main point and the main drive. So that's not failure to me. I'm gonna get into wrapping up these books, and I'm going to move on with the other videos that I am very excited to make, and hopefully will be hitting your airwaves very soon, unlike this one was supposed to. Alright, so total wrap up. How many books did I read? Let's consult the old journal here. Oh, the eraser fell. That's fine. So I read 5 books to completion. Some I had already started, others I started just for this challenge, but altogether, there are 5 that I ultimately finished. There are some more that I read a bit in, but haven't yet finished, or they were just portions of stuff that I had started outside of this challenge, but we'll get to those last, because I can't really give you a review on them. Oh yeah, I read like 60 pages in Hemingway. That's right. Oh, and then Jeanette McCurdy's. Add that in, Chey. Add that to the total. Where's my pencil? I ran a concrete jungle. Ow! 60 plus 10. That's 70. Oh crap, I forgot to add that into my total. Hold on, quick math. 897 plus 117, 4, 1, 1014? 1014? Is that right? Quick math? Quick math? 4, 1, 2, 11, 9, 10, carry the 1, 1,000. I read 1,014 pages. Considering the content of what I read, especially one book in particular, I'm very happy. We'll get into that, because that one particular book felt like reading 600 pages and not 290. The first book that I finished for this challenge was Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut. I am trying to read all of Kurt Vonnegut's bibliography, as I probably said at the beginning of this video, but it's been so long now, I can't remember. This book was an exception to the rule because it's one that I was annotating while I was reading during this challenge, and I only had to read about 60 pages to finish it whenever I started this challenge, so hi there, we're gonna get this show on the road because I'm learning that this video is cursed. I don't want to get into it, but my phone ran out of storage and it was just a comedy of errors. Anyway, it's dark outside now, so in terms of reviews, I'm going to try to rapid fire this as much as I can. Slaughterhouse 5, Kurt Vonnegut. Very, very good. Really, really enjoyed it. Not my favorite of his works story-wise, but writing-wise, might be my favorite. It's kind of up there with Player Piano. I really loved Player Piano, but the writing in this might turn out to be my favorite of Vonnegut's so far. Very emotional, very heart-wrenching. If you don't want your heart ripped out, don't read this. But also, if you want to have a good, funny, emotional time that also makes you think, this is for you. This is for you. But just be aware that it surrounds some very, very heavy themes, as do a lot of his books. But this one in particular has to do with World War II and the atrocities surrounding that. So just be aware of that. There were a lot of quotes in here in this book though, which is why I say it's probably my top favorite for his writing. A lot of quotes that just made me go. And a lot of quotes that made me laugh out loud. Not quite as rapturously as the other ones, and that makes more sense because this is a more serious-esque book, but it did have funny moments, or at least I think appropriate comedic timing. That's something that I really admire about Vonnegut that I think is really well done in this sort of more serious kind of novel. It's definitely comedically appropriately comedically timed. It's funny when it needs to be funny, and it's kind of just out of the park, like it's out of left field, but it fits in a way. It's hard to explain without spoiling anything or talking about anything too in depth, but I think it is appropriate. It's funny when it needs to be, and also it knows when to pull back and when to give. And the same for the hard-hitting emotional lines, which I think is another theme that pervades through Vonnegut's writing, and I think why it resonates with so many people, is that you can't really see the emotional lines coming, like when he has these revelations in his writing, when he has these phrases that just really, like, hit you in the heart and hit you in the mind, and things that you take with you after you finish reading it, things that you still think about, they aren't really built up to. Sometimes they are, but they also often just come out of left field or come out of right field, and you're like, whoa, hey, wait, whoa! You just came out of nowhere dropping that on me! Kind of like the subject of this book. That's a very dark joke, and if you've read this book, you probably get that. You may have to think about it for a second, but you'll get it. Did a mosquito bite me? I think it did. The jerk? Wow, that brightness is quite bright. Hold on. There we go. Hi. Has it been like that the whole time? Probably. Very good. 5 out of 5 stars. Given. Volume 1. I have 1 through 4 of this series, as I probably said earlier, but I decided just to give number 1, finally, a shot in this challenge. I had already read a chapter whenever I started this challenge, but I'm still counting it as basically reading the whole book. I've seen this series everywhere, not so much in the past year, but in the past few years, I've seen it a lot on social media, and it really intrigued me. And of course, if it's surrounding anything with music or band dynamics, I'm your girl. And that's what this is about. It's about some dudes in a band with some tragic emotional backstories and a lot of interesting dynamics. I'm also rooting for the bassist and the drummer to get together. The drummer is my favorite so far. I'm not gonna lie, the drummer is my favorite, but usually the drummer is my favorite. Oh my god, I'm turning into my mom. Anyway, I'm rooting for the bassist and the drummer, that's all I'll say. But it is building up to a lot of mystery and a lot of intrigue. I think the pacing is somewhat slower than what I'm used to in mangas, but I kind of like it. It's like slice of life-esque, it pretty much is. But I'm really enjoying that because it's a story that I am enjoying delving into the characters themselves and their dynamics and their interactions and how they evolve. So the fact that we're getting a little bit of intrigue and mystery sprinkled into there and how it's going to evolve and affect things, very, very interested. I think I'm going to start volume 2 tonight just because I can. Corey Taylor's 7 Deadly Sins. This is a book that I have owned for a very long time. How long? I don't know. I've owned it for a very long time. Mama Chey bought this for a Chey that was probably too young to read it. Corey Taylor would disagree, but what does Corey Taylor think about this? It's my favorite meme on social media currently, like in the music space, is, yeah, but what does Corey Taylor have to say? That being said, I love Corey Taylor. I love Slipknot. I love Stone Sour. But I also just love Corey Taylor. I have moments in my life, you know, YouTube rabbit holes you go down. I have YouTube binge watch holes that I go down where I just watch his stand-up, but like his solo stuff where he's doing Q&A and like the book tour, and he's doing like the CMFT stuff where he's on stage and just talking to the audience, interacting with people, storytelling. Oh my gosh, his stories. If you've never heard or seen any of those videos that I'm talking about binging, where he's just on stage storytelling or talking to people, doing Q&As and stuff, I highly recommend you go watch him. He is such a charismatic storyteller. There you go, Corey. I want the TM rights to that. That's your next book. Natural born storyteller. You heard it here first, Corey. Corey? I think we can make something here. You know? I'm losing my mind. So what is this book about? The 7 Deadly Sins, obviously, but it's more of a talk on why they're bullshit. I honestly don't know how to sum this up in a way that would do it justice, except for it is expounding and extrapolating on the essences of what has been considered to be the 7 deadly sins, why that's BS, how it's all generally in our human nature, or taking it to extremes is what makes it a sin. When it crosses the line of hurting other people, I am not doing it justice. I am not a philosophical, theological, discussion kind of person. But just generally, it's a discussion on how every single person embodies a little bit of every single sin, generally speaking. If you're gonna get into the nitty-gritty, we all give in to all of those sins a little bit in different ways. And since that's the case, why is it really considered sin if it's clearly like a part of human nature in some aspect? And why he goes into discussing why he thinks it's been discussed as a sin, and typically it has to do with the church and hierarchical power. And as someone who is a history major and went to a Jesuit university, I also have my own thoughts about, but I'm not gonna get into that. Needless to say, I thought it was very interesting, got me thinking about a lot, very chronically readable, just like all his storytelling videos and his Q&As. Like, you can't stop listening to it. I couldn't stop reading this. Do I agree with everything he said? No, but I don't think that's the point, because he even says the point of this book is just to kind of make you think. You don't have to agree with him. He doesn't want you to agree with him on everything, just to start a discussion and start you thinking, and that's exactly what it did for me. So in that aspect, it succeeded. I didn't come into it expecting to agree with everything. I agree with them on a lot, and there were some things they said where I was like, yeah! If I could have an hour with Corey Taylor, I would love to, well, I'd discuss a lot of things, but I'd also like to discuss his views on this kind of stuff now that we are years removed from this. I'd like to see if he has any updated thoughts on it. Anything that he would take back. Anything that he's rethought. Because this definitely got me thinking, and I kind of want to write in a journal my thoughts on this and expound on them more, and maybe I'll make an updated video on that later. But all you need to know is that I think this book is fun. I think it's good to think. I also think it's just very funny. Like Slaughterhouse-5, be aware it does cover some dark themes, obviously, because it talks about 7 deadly sins, so there is a lot of debauchery involved, obviously, but there are some heavier subjects mentioned in here, so definitely look up trigger warnings before you dive into this. But if you're a fan of Corey Taylor, if you're a fan of Slipknot or Stone Sour, it probably will not surprise you in the slightest. I have been waiting so long to read this book. I don't know why I just haven't picked it up. Maybe I was kind of intimidated by it, but I'm glad I picked it up. I enjoyed it. It was fun. Thanks, Corey. That didn't look as excited as I felt, but I'm just tired. Let's talk about Furiously Happy, because I don't have that much to say about it. That was the one audiobook that I listened to mostly while playing an iPad game and just frying my brain cells because that was in the middle of kind of a burnout session. But I liked it. I was honestly kind of disappointed and let down by this book because I have heard it hyped up so much, and on the list of autobiographies or kind of memoir books or self-help, like comedy books especially, it's usually at the very freaking top of the list. And so I had high expectations. It was like a 3.5 star for me. I didn't love it. I related to a lot of it, especially her chronic illness struggles, and she was funny, but there were just a lot of dynamics in the book that made me uncomfortable, like her relationship dynamic with her husband. And I'm not in that relationship, obviously I can't speak for them. I am not the judge, jury, executioner of that, but just like their dynamic that was discussed, I was like, personally, to me, that seems a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit unhealthy. I don't know how I feel about that. So overall, that just kind of brought down the mood of the book for me. But generally, I think it's very funny. I liked it. I liked it a lot. It definitely wasn't a bad book. It didn't live up to the hype for me. And maybe that's my own fault for getting so hype about it. But would I recommend it? Yeah, especially if you deal with mental illness or chronic illness, especially. It's definitely good for anyone who deals with a chronic illness of any sort. Like me, I think. I think it's very validating. It's definitely a lot of comedic relief and looking at situations in a new light and new perspective. So in that area, I think it gets 4.5 stars. Would definitely recommend it on that front. Alright, let's talk about the last book that I read that I literally just finished today. That's Rip It Up and Start Again by Simon Reynolds. This is the book that I read 290 pages in that felt like 600. And it's because of those reasons that I stated at the very beginning of this video. It's how he talks about music. And as someone who has synesthesia, and as someone who loves music and loves sound, I can't understand it. It's so difficult to understand how he's describing different noises, because he's like, the gothic discotheque-esque jigsawing reverberations of the guitar string sends a narrow wave down the line that blah 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 blah, and I'm like, I can't do it. I can't picture it in my brain because I'm trying to picture it, but it's a sound, and so which is ironic because my synesthesia is image-based, but it's relative to images that only I know, and so if I listen to those sounds he's talking about, I'm gonna have a different image in my head. So this didn't make me hate this book. That it was just, it made it a struggle to read. It made it slower to read. And I definitely enjoyed it. I learned a lot. This is a person, if you want a really good music history, an in-depth insight into this period in history, oh my gosh, 10 out of 10 recommend this. I actually do plan on going through this book a lot slower with a reread. That way I can annotate it and actually take my time section by section and just reread it 10 times if I have to. And something that I want to do that I think, if you have the time, would probably be the most beneficial if you're going to read this book, is listening to the music that he's talking about alongside of it while you're reading it. And that will take a significantly longer amount of time because there's like 10,000 albums and singles and bands mentioned in this book. But I think it would be worth it. I think that's how I'm gonna do it because I think that's what's gonna make more sense to me, and I think that's what's really gonna drive it home. But in terms of sheer information and passion, oh my gosh. This dude loves this era, or at least is extremely knowledgeable about it in a way that's I mean, sometimes it comes off as biased, but it's not biased enough to be distracting. It's just biased enough to be like, wow, you might have some favorites, you know? It's kind of obvious which albums you prefer because, to their credit, they literally say, like, this album was disappointing or whatever. But I don't think it gets in the way of the information. I think that's what's more important because it's very factual, it's very straightforward. I love the way that this author was able to interweave all of the different interactions and dynamics and relationships that evolved out of this period and trace trends and themes and elements from, you know, dietism, I am mispronouncing that, to cabaret, to futurism, to retro, to discotheque, and interweave all that in a way that makes sense along with the people and the places and the bands and how they all just came together and came out different ways and sometimes interwoven between each other and sometimes just affected something 10 spaces away. Extremely well done. I think extremely, extremely well done. Really enjoyed it. But I'm definitely gonna have to read it again, I think, to really make it make sense the most that it can. At least in terms of the sounds. The information, the general information, I got. But in terms of what things sound like, most of these artists and albums and singles I have not heard ever, or I've only ever heard once in my life, and so I'm definitely gonna have to go back and read this while listening to them, I think, to make it make sense. But if you're someone who grew up in this era, or someone who is already really knowledgeable about this area, I think it'll be kind of a breeze, generally speaking. I really enjoyed it though, it just took a very, very long time. I can usually read 120 pages, maybe in like 2 hours. Took me 3.5 this afternoon. Straight. Unlike me. In terms of other things that I am currently reading that I just read some pages in for this challenge but did not yet finish, I read 60 pages in The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. I am 20 pages away from finishing it. Really enjoying it, but those thoughts will be in a different video. I read about 40 pages in Please Kill Me. I don't know how I feel about this book. It's an interview, it's a collection of interviews about different subjects in the history of punk. This book is really petty so far. Like, the people that are being interviewed in here are just, like, trash talking each other and being, well, this person did that and this person did that. Like, that was 40 years ago. Get over it. Who cares that Warhol stole your horizontal striped shirt? I also read 10 pages in Jeanette McCurdy's I'm Glad My Mom Died, which is another current read that I just have sitting on my nightstand. And finally, the final book that I rounded out that half hour with today that I was talking about, I am reading the next Vonnegut book in the bibliography, which is Breakfast of Champions. I am 117 pages into it. Not bad. As I said, the goal was just to read more, baby, and we did that. We read a lot, and I'm still reading a lot. I am glad that I'm not in a reading slump. I know a lot of people get in a reading slump this time of year. I am glad I'm not one of those people. I think because I just had mine like a month ago. I got mine early. I got a pre-slump. I'm out of it now because I'm reading some very, very good books. Also, I'm kind of on a high of just finishing this one. I have tried for years to read this book. So the fact that I just sat down and cranked it out today, I'm loving life, baby. I can conquer anything. Except for, Pokemon Pearl. That's a different story. As for right now, though, we're gonna end this video right here. And I'm gonna go. And I'm probably gonna go watch a few music videos. And then work on some different videos for this channel, which will be up soon. Actually, a few will probably be up before you even see this video, because this still needs to be edited. I have a bunch of other book content on this channel. Wrap-ups, challenges, reading vlogs, all of that. It's on a playlist called Books. It'll be linked up above and down in the description below, as well as at the end card at the end of the video. So go check that playlist out if you're looking for more of my book chaos. Right now, though, thank y'all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate your patience. I'm back, baby, for better or for worse. If you ain't heard it from anyone else today, I love you. Love and peace. Bye!